หากเธอได้ยินเสียงเพลงบรรเลงเธอจงกลับไปเรียกไพรพลมันคือทวงทำนองของสามัญชนคนธรรมดาอย่างเราหากเธอได้ยินเสียงกลองกระหน่ำมันคือเสียงเท้าของมวลชนกระหึ่มด้วยแรงประสานของเสรีชนคนใต้ฟ้าเดียวกันดวงดาวยังประกายพอแสงจะรักแรงยามบนฟ้าไกลผูกใจเรารวมประสานศรัทธามันส่งถึงวันเราได้ชัยปรบมือดังเสียงกลองและเป่าร้องว่าไม่ยอมให้ผู้ใหญ่มาทำลายในก่อนที่เสรีที่เรามีคราวที่เรายังหายใจจับมือเดินก้าวไปเราคือเพื่อนกัน หากเธอได้ยินเสียงเพลงบรรเลงเธอจงกลับไปเรียกไพรพลมันคือทวงทำนองของสามัญชนคนธรรมดาอย่างเราหากเธอได้ยินเสียงกลองกระหน่ำมันคือเสียงเท้าของมวลชนกระหึ่มด้วยแรงประสานของเสรีชนคนใต้ฟ้าเดียวกันดวงดาวยังประกายพอแสงจะรักแรงยามบนฟ้าไกลผูกใจเรารวมประสานศรัทธามันส่งถึงวันเราได้ชัยปรบมือดังเสียงกลองและเป่าร้องว่าไม่ยอมให้ผู้ใดมาทำลายในก่อนที่เสรีที่เรามีคราวที่เรายังหายใจจับมือเดินก้าวไปเราคือเพื่อนกัน
Hi, good afternoon, comrade. Welcome to online solidarity gathering for democracy in Thailand. I'm Bhavani from Socialist Party of Malaysia, going to be the MC for today online event. For those need interpretation, you all can switch to the interpretation. We have a translation in Thai language and also in Bahasa Indonesia. And each speaker going to be provide 5 minutes. So after 4 minutes, I will remind y'all. Y'all will have a balance 1 minute to conclude your speech. I'm going to call our comrade Chungkai to give introduction for today this online gathering.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the online solidarity gathering for democracy in Thailand. This gathering is jointly organized by the Southeast Asia Left, including the Socialist Party of Malaysia, PSM, Party of the Labouring Masses, PLM, Working People's Party from Philippines, Working People's Party, PRP, Indonesia, and Socialist Workers, Thailand. And we also have friends from different parts of the world also joining us in this solidarity gathering. I would like to thank everyone for coming to this meeting, in joining us in this Zoom meeting, as well as following us at the live streaming at Facebook at the moment. I would like to thank Liga 8 Bandung for providing the technical support, including this Zoom meeting room for us to hold this gathering. I think it's very important for us to voice our solidarity with the ongoing struggle for democracy in Thailand at the moment, where for us, I think Thailand has been one of the beacons of democracy in the Southeast Asia, where we had witnessed before this the uprising of people of Thailand in the 70s and the 90s that managed to win some significant democratic space for the country. But we are also seeing this constant pushback by the conservative military complex of the elite ruling class in Thailand that always destroying the efforts of building democracy in the Thailand. So for us, as the left, the socialists, as well as the civil society, in the spirit of internationalism and solidarity, we hope this sessions is one of our effort to voice our solidarity with the people of Thailand in their effort to struggle for democracy, for genuine democracy and social justice. The success of the Thai people in their struggle for democracy is important, not just for the Thai people to build a better future for the country, but also will serve as inspiration for us in the Southeast Asia, as well as other people elsewhere in the world, for us to continue our struggle for genuine democracy and social emancipation. Our solidarity always with the people of Thailand.
Hi, so it's an honor to be here. Well, to briefly introduce myself, you can call me by Mai. I just graduated from Chulalongkorn University in political science this October. Anyway, now I am a media correspondent from Free Youth, is an activist group in Thailand. So, well, let's have a quick look on our protests in Thailand. Well, the ongoing protests against Thai royal capitalist government have been since February. Well, at that time in February, it mainly students protested in universities. And anyway, the protest ceased when COVID was spreading, but it made a big comeback again on July, and with much bigger than before, and many students and people join in. Well, now the three demands are: first, the resignation of Prayut Chan-o-cha, our Prime Minister, and second is the revision of the Constitution, and third is the reform of the monarchy. Anyway, the demands might change in the near future with like more radical. Well, I don't know what to inspire you guys, but anyway, I think that we live in a crisis time in which capitalism proves itself again to be a disastrous system. Well, capitalism is the real disease, while COVID-19 or climate change or even failed government are its symptoms. We must cure the real disease, not just the symptoms, right? Changing government, or for me, changing just the managers of capitalism will not work. We must have to change the whole system. Well, this is a perfect time to show people the real solution to capitalist crisis. It is a perfect time to bring socialism onto the table. Anyway, in our Facebook page, Free Youth, we just launched our new movement project called the RT with hammer and sickle logo. And let me show you a bit. Well, this is... Alright.
Ini adalah logonya, teman-teman, bisa dilihat di layar. Itu adalah logo project baru kami.
And yeah, with from this project we'll be educating people more about laborers, who are the labor or who are the capitalists, what is capitalism and why you're all oppressed or why you're all laborers and workers, and that if you're workers, well, you have to, you know, break your chains and protest with us. Anyway, in Thailand, after we launched this project like a few days ago, we stirred quite a lot of controversial. You know, many liberals don't like us, let alone conservatives. They hate us anyways. Well, in Thailand, we've been living in like royalist capitalist consensus. Well, there's not much debate about like socialism or Marxism. People still think like we're the Marxists from like the Cold War era. Well, actually Marxists in the 21st century have changed so much. But yeah, many people still, on the mainstream still don't know what is like socialism or Marxism or that word, we want to be like the dictators or something. Yeah, I think the challenge in Thailand is that we have to change like the mindset of the people about like Marxism or socialism, and that we also like have to rebrand socialism in Thailand a little bit, because like as I said, we've been living through a decades of like no socialism consensus at all, like no socialism debate at all. So yeah, that's our challenge. Anyway,
one more minute.
Okay, 1 more minute. Well, so there are many rallies, as we can see, there are many rallies that are going on from, Southeast Asia to Europe and Latin. And as I said, it's a crisis of capitalism. These movements come out because like the system is failing, because capitalism is failing. So my last word would be, it is a perfect time to bring socialism on the table. This is a perfect time for, socialism to offer the newer solution, the alternative solution to capitalism. That's it. Solidarity with you guys all. Thank you.
Hi, comrades. On behalf of the Socialist Alliance of Australia, I bring our warmest greetings to this regional solidarity gathering with the democracy movement in Thailand. This youth-led movement in Thailand is a great inspiration to everyone around the world who's struggling.
Bagi semua orang di dunia ini untuk memperjuangkan
the boldness, the creativity, the tenacity of this movement in the face of brutal repression and the deliberate promotion of the most servile, feudal superstition and blind obedience by the Thai ruling class that is inspiring. It's also inspiring because I think it signals the preparedness of a new generation to take leadership in the struggle for liberation. Now, when an earlier Thai youth uprising toppled the former dictator Thanom Kitikachorn in 1974, that movement also became one of the icons of the 1970s global youth radicalization. I remember this vividly because I was part of that radicalizing generation, as were other founding members of Socialist Alliance. Today, the new Thai democracy movement is once again in the vanguard of a worldwide youth movement fighting for system change. I think all around the world, the new generation has no choice but to struggle. The global climate emergency alone is showing that humanity urgently needs to overthrow the capitalist system and all the brutal dictators and the privileged monarchs that help prop up the system all around the world. And the Thai youth have demonstrated that no more are they prepared just to be dust under the feet of kings or queens. They have totally rejected the old slave mentality. Even the use of Section 112 lèse majesté laws does not frighten them. And they have shown this by responding to these charges, by taking to the streets again and again, mocking the rich idiot king's lying parrot calls to gullible international media. We love them all the same, and Thailand is the land of compromise. Just before the mass protests outside the Siam Commercial Bank on November 25, the free youth movement in Thailand put out what I believe is a very inspiring statement linking the monarchy and the capitalist system. Under this state, having the king above the constitution not only disgraces the people, but also buttresses inequality. Under this state, the people are ruled by capitalists, military and feudalists who write the wretched laws. Under this state, the ruling class oppress the people who are the true founders and heirs of this country. Although the old is dying, this is a statement, the new cannot be born. This is a crisis of hegemony. To tackle it, the ruling class must surrender to the enlightened people who wish to break the chains and make another world possible. This powerful fight by the people, not just the free youth, with three demands: the revision of the constitution, the reform of the monarchy, the resignation of the dictatorial cronies, the people will liberate themselves. This is not a frivolous fad, this is a fearless fight to light up the future of our generation. That's the end of the quote. Well, all I can say, comrades, is we agree 100%. Down with feudalism, down with the dictatorship, power to the people. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. And I'm very happy to be able to join you today. Laban ng Masa is a coalition of about 50 organizations, that is struggling for justice and socialism in the Philippines. We are proud to be among those in the forefront of the struggle against the current authoritarian Duterte administration. And I would just like to say a few words. I had the opportunity to observe a number of the events in Thailand since I was stranded there for about 7 months owing to the COVID situation. I was fortunate to be present at the big September 19 rally near Thammasat University, and to be able to hear leaders like Manusia and Parit Chirawak, the very young two of the very young leaders of the movement in Thailand today. And I would just like to say a few words about what strikes me most about this very, very important movement. And that is the leading by example and with a lot of courage of many of the people that are in the forefront of this movement. Now, I say this because we cannot underestimate the role of courage and leading by example in the birth of this movement. I still remember, since I have studied Thailand, back in May 24, 2014, the military came down very hard in a coup. And the only people at that point who were willing to challenge them were, a group of young people, not necessarily connected with one another, because the big political parties basically were out of the streets. But these young people, came out, and they came out and coordinated with the three-finger salute, the famous salute from Hunger Games. The military basically said, that they would arrest anybody that was in assemblies of more than 5 people, I think. So, these were people who were challenging the system right from the beginning. And as Peter had said, the military came down with saying that people would be imprisoned through lèse-majesté, anything you said about the royal family, and they applied that very broadly. And people, young people, defied it. They staged this personal demonstrations. Some went into exile. some stood up during the national anthem being, played in protest. So, what we see is that, in fact, the leadership of this movement was forged in struggle. And you can see that, for instance, in the career, or not a career, but the Partai, for instance, who's called Penguin, started way in high school a few years ago. So these people, though very young, already have years of experience. So, and of course, there were people in exile that were supportive of what was happening, like my friend Junya Yimprasert, who is with us, like Chai Umpakorn. So there was people on the outside and these people on the inside coordinating with one another. When finally, late last year and this year, the critical mass appeared, but that critical mass did not just emerge spontaneously. That was really built up through very, very strong leading by example, especially of young people. So I just therefore would like to end here by saying, that what the generation in Thailand that's now leading the struggle against the regime has to offer all of us is this very, very basic example that you have to be willing to defy the authorities and put yourself and your life on the line. And that is why it was so easy to be able to formulate these 10 demands, a few weeks ago, because people had recognized that those who were formulating it were people who had been forged in the struggle and therefore had the moral authority to be able to put these demands forward, and therefore they were, so this was extremely important. So let me just end there because I think many others would like to participate and say their own words of inspiration, but that is what has inspired me very much. Thank you.
Hi, สวัสดีค่ะ สวัสดีทุกคน แล้วก็ Hi, hello everyone, all friends from Asia. It has been 10 years now that I haven't been back and meet most of you, and stationed in Europe and continue to fight for democracies from here. And I am now in Berlin, and trying to put on resources that I have and that we have to continue to help or assist the struggles of the people in Thailand from here. I think everyone is so exciting as much as me to see what is developing in Thailand right now. We can see that what's happening for the past 6 months, how fast the issue has been picked up and how varieties and how strong of the young generations of the people in Thailand. I think that we all welcome that, and that is why we are coming here to give solidarities to the people in Thailand. And it's the time that Thailand is needed here also. So I think on behalf of the Thai people, we thank you from our friends and comrades to continue to give solidarity for Thailand. But first, I'd like to just give emphasize that this movement and this moment in Thailand is very important. And there is a huge debate right now in Thailand of the new symbols of the youth, like, this is represents the socialism's mentalities in it. And for us, and we see that it's very brave of the young people to confront the whole society, the society that had been made to be silenced for so many years, with the kind of the use symbolic of what had been taboos for a long time into the what you call is the boost of the criticisms and debate in Thailand, and I think this kind of bravery of the young people to challenge one of the taboo that has been oppressed the Thai people in the name of protecting of the monarchy, in the name of obedience to the authorities, of the military regimes has been kind of like, coming into the public. And from what we have seen now is that this young generation, I can say it's a clash of generations. They have been, they have a moments of like growing up during the past 10 years to see, what is going on in Thailand, what is the problem in Thailand, and they take responsibility to carry, these messages all together. So that's why it's kind of like, it's a shocking, it's also a debate in Thailand, because they are not talking only about, eliminate or fighting the military junta, but they also picking up of problems that has been made to silence the Thai peoples. They're talking about fundamental right, of LGBTs, of the right to live a dignified life, a life of equalities, that people should live as should be respected as equal human beings. And they're also now talking also about the fundamental right of the laborers, all of those which have been made kind of like under the carpet during the past 10 years, especially when we have living under so much of political turmoil. And I'm so happy to hear, the representative of the youth today who talking about that they are now also looking at the problem of the world, Thailand, in according with the problem of the world, the clash of capitalism and socialism, the need to bring in socialism ideology to be back into the debate, to support and to back up the 99% of the oppressed, so that is very welcoming and very happy to see this fundamental issue has been foundations of the movement in Thailand now. And for me, I think like we can be relaxed a bit to see that they are coming with a very solid ground of analysis, of listening, and what we can do is to support them, to help the movement in Thailand to reach the success, and also to challenge the old establishments or the old authoritarian regime in Thailand and to the success. So I think that is what I can say, and I'm really happy and I'm really determined, and I think we are also, even though we are afraid of what might come, but we also have a lot of hope that Thailand may change and they can change the country.
Okay, thank you. Are you finished, comrade?
Yeah, I think there's so many people here. Just like to say to Thai people that สู้ๆค่ะกล้ามากเก่งมากแล้วก็เป็นกำลังใจให้กับทุกคนนะคะถ้าไม่สู้เราก็ต้องอยู่อย่างทาสเพราะฉะนั้นสู้แล้วก็โลกจะอยู่กับเราด้วยค่ะ
Thank you, comrade.
Okay, thanks and hello everybody. Nice to meet you even on Zoom meeting. Okay, if you hear another voice, I'm so sorry about it because I'm on the protest in Jakarta. Okay, you can see here in Jakarta, people are protest for human rights violence and rejected omnibus law in Jakarta, and it's still going since noon. Okay, we are from Partai Rakyat Pekerja Indonesia. We extend solidarity to the protest for a democratic right and reform in Thailand, and we also condemn the repressive action by the Thailand government against the protester. So, by all indication, the military junta is okay. Sorry. By all indication, the military junta is gearing up even worse and whispered, calm down the protest sweeping the land. So that now the situation in Thailand, the current protest in Thailand have swelled from its humble beginning from February 2020. And in the past week, tens and thousands of people are pouring into the street of capital Bangkok to air dance women. So with the young people in Delhi serving as the core of protests. The rank are just going out the street and have this verified to include the working people in Thailand. So in the recent weeks, call for a general strike has been brewing along with a stronger percent of the other democratic sector on the Thailand. So the part of working people, it should not allow interest of faction in the military or ruling elite to hijack the action or claim the power for the curing looting with just for represent the system that brings crisis and social inequality and representation. So we are Partai Rakyat Pekerja so continue to be vigilant on development in the country and really democratic forces in the region to action support to struggle of all the Thai people. And we all also arrest that the state of self-emergency announced on 15 October 2020 violate international human rights standard and violate to meet the principle of legality, necessity, and proportionality. So we condemn the use of a national security narrative to block this faithful protest, and as well as the attempt to portray the develop to the movement. And so its leader as a threat to national security to stability to the stability of the nation. To continuous arrest and the use of judicial harassment against a human rights defender are unjustifiable. So, and that serve no other purpose than to instill fear to promote repression against the movement. The arrest of protester and the leader instill fear to promote repression against the movement. So we recognize this tactic also being used by the other government and include Indonesia and the other government in the regional to stop social movement. So this tactic violates international rights standard, and there's have no rule in any fair or just society. So we support the fair demand of the people democratic right and the reform for the worker, for the peasant, student, and youth, and the other sector in Thailand, again, the military, junta, and the elite. So,
Comrade, can conclude?
yes, sorry.
Can conclude your speech?
Yeah?
Can you conclude your speech?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, and the last, the democratic right and the reform struggle in Thailand is an opportunity for building and strengthening a movement that rallies the people of United Nation and social liberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Bawani. Greetings to all the comrades from all over the world. I'm humbled by the determination of the Thai people to achieve democracy and the emergence of young people, not for the first time, but the emergence of young people at the helm of the struggle. My earliest memories of Thailand as an activist is one of military blocks from the airport to the hotel. Military presence was pervasive all around the country. For successive periods, the Thai people struggled for an end to the military rule. Young Thai people lay face down in the public square, which the military used to shoot, killing mindlessly more than 100 people. This cycle of military dictatorship replaced by an elected government has been the history of the people of Thailand in the recent past. despite facing death, imprisonment, lynching by paramilitary forces, forced disappearances. This has not stopped the current struggle from taking place. On this Human Rights Day in 2020, we stand in solidarity with the Thai people, the Thai activists in Thailand, Thai activists outside Thailand, and solidarity groups for democracy in Thailand all around the world, calling for an end to violence against people, for the rule of law, and the return to true democracy, not one minted by dictators in disguise. We are truly inspired by the recent struggle, and this has helped us in our struggles, which are much smaller, requiring much less sacrifice than the sacrifice that is demanded for the young Thai activists in Thailand. So we want to thank them for inspiring so many of us, young and old, in Malaysia and in all around the world. We are inspired by you, and we thank you very much for what you are contributing to the struggle of people in the world. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm a Thai refugee in South Korea right now. I've been living in South Korea for almost 3 years now, since I fled, because I was charged with lèse majesté 3 years ago. You know, I want to say that I never thought that this movement will happen this soon, ever in my life. Because back in 2012, 2013, when I was in the university, I was a student activist in Chulalongkorn University, and we had this group called Chulalongkorn Community for the People. So we call it CCP for short. And when people look at us and see the name CCP, they will think that, oh, this is the communists from China for sure, like Chinese Communist Party, something like that. And people never support communism in Thailand, even like in the student group in my university. And they thought that we want to overthrow the king, but actually we don't want to only overthrow something, but we want to overthrow everything, feudalism. So yeah, and right now, like 2 days ago, I just saw a free youth fan page on Facebook advertising the symbol of hammer and sickle. And this issue is on fire right now on the internet. Thai people are debating about why they are using this symbol is communism, and we shouldn't be like that, something like that. I think Thai people have the wrong perception of what is communism, what is socialism, and what is leftist ideology. And it's been like this for so long, since the communist movement happened in Thailand. Right now is a good opportunity to let Thai people learn about what is the real leftist ideology and socialism. So I'm so glad to see that. And another thing is, I never thought that I would see this big movement happen in Thailand after I fled the country. You know, back in 2014, I was among the few people that came out on the street and protest against the coup d'etat. At that time, there were very few people coming out, so we were easily targeted. But right now, there are 10,000, hundreds of thousands of people coming out. So I think this is this is happening, and it's changed so fast. Like, who would have thought that 5 months ago, people will criticize the monarchy publicly like this? Who would have thought that? But it's happening. So, yeah, I have a lot of hope in Thai people right now, and I have a lot of hope in the change, in revolution that I believe is coming soon. So finally, I want to thank all the international solidarity and international support after the biggest movement in Thailand, the biggest protest in Thailand in August. I remember there's been a lot of international support, international protests that has been happening around the world, including in Korea too. So thank you, and in solidarity.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm very glad to be here among everybody, and to see everybody sharing their thoughts and sharing their all of us sharing our concerns of what's happening in Thailand and our hopes of what's going on in Thailand. I just want to add to what all the Thai refugees that have been explaining the situation in Thailand. Just to be short, for me, the uprising, this movement is the uprising of those that have been oppressed for too long in this system. In Southeast Asia, Thai people like to see themselves like the leader, the best, behind Singapore. They like to compare themselves to Malaysia, to Myanmar, to Laos, to Cambodia, our neighboring countries. And we like to believe that we are better until all the fake illusions strip down and unveil the what actually we lack compared to other countries. So those of us that could get the privilege to travel abroad, I believe those are the one that awaken the first. However, those that are still suffering in Thailand, this system called Buddhism that make us believe all of these is actually our fault. So this is why in the past, even though all of these injustice that we have been suffering for too long, the farmers in Thailand, the workers in Thailand, they never have any rights that they deserve. They never have well-being. But because of Buddhism, especially Thai Buddhism, the way that they taught, that we are taught, we grown up with the mentality that what happened to us in this life is a result of what happened from the previous life. So we grew up with the mentality that we need to accept this destiny. And if you want to change anything, you could change something, but there's a saying in Thai, แข่งบุญแข่งวาสนาแต่แข่งบุญแข่งเรือแข่งพายได้แต่ว่าแข่งบุญแข่งวาสนาไม่ได้ So this is which is translated into, you might compete in any other contest, but not in destiny. So we are destined, that's Buddhism, even though Buddhism is more like a political, one of the most democratic religion that everybody kind of have equality. But the way the Buddhism is implemented in Thailand, people growing up with accepting the fact that everybody is not equal, and we need to accept it as a fact. We can't do anything with it, and we are taught to worship those that they are in good fortune because they have done something great in the past life. We believe in reincarnation. So we believe that in order to escape this suffering, we need to do all the good things. We need to maintain being doing good, so that the next life we can be the rich, we can be in power, we can have control over our life. Or many of us look up to the royal family and accept the fact that they probably, born with some superpower or something that make them special. And that's put it on all the lay majest law. Without the lay majest law, people are scared of criticizing monarchy because of Buddhism. And the part Buddhism in Thailand play very important part role in the 1973-1976 movement of the democracy. Prakiti Wutto, which is one of the leading monks, came out and say that killing students is actually make you a martyr. You become saint. It's sinless killing students, protesters. So Buddhism has been a tool that this corrupted system trying to control over Thai people for many years. So for me, it is very important for the people to, first of all, get out of this illusion that everybody born with the rights, everybody is born equal and born with the rights to seek the best for ourselves. And all this suffering can be changed if you see that other countries with monarchy, they live way better lives than us, and monarchy is equal. So this is very important that all the students movement, they've been trying to revoke Article 112 to stop us from criticizing monarchy. After all, everybody is the same, everybody is equal. So I hope that one day everybody would understand more about that communism and socialism is actually for the people, and this mentality that Buddhism put it on us, the religion try to control us, that blame communism and socialism as something that actually try to bring equality, but Buddhism says something else. So yeah, that's for my speech today. Sorry if I was a bit too long.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Yimprasert. I'm Wong Yimprasert, also the coordinator of National Human Rights Network from Malaysia. And good morning, good evening, and also good afternoon to everyone who was in Malaysia, Thailand, and in the other places. So thank you to the organizer for inviting me to give a few words. I mean, especially to give the solidarity message to the Thai people and also the Thai democracy movement. It's very important when we voice international solidarity. And we understand that actually the Thai government is having a huge crackdown towards the activists, especially the student leaders and as well as the other leaders. And it's very awful to see that. And the struggle is still keeping on. And it's what I mean right now is it's very important day today, as well as today is International Human Rights Day, as well as for Thailand, Thai people, it's Constitution Days, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's Constitutional Day. So it's one of the remarkable day, but the struggle is still going on since 1932 until right now. The struggle is still going on, and we understand the struggle and we share the struggle as well. But before I'm sharing like the experience in Malaysia, perhaps I could just point out some points whereby the few things that I really respect the Thai protester. Okay, let me just express my salute to them. And I'm also 24 years old, but I'm also try to fight with the system with the other friends. But sometimes we feel miserable because we feel that the people. We have no strong. The people that come out to fight with the system is there, but it's not significant enough. And so that's what we respect from the Thai protester, especially is initiate the whole democracy movement is initiated by the grassroots. And we can see even though some of the students, leaders, or the activists are being investigated or being remanded or being jailed. But the movement's still going on. They won't stop it even though the leaders are not there. So I pretty respect to the grassroots in Thailand, because you make sure the momentum is still giving on until you strike for your goal. Then the second thing is about the creativity of Thai people doing the protest. First of all, they use the character of a movie such as the Hamtaro, as well as the what we call the Hunger Games, using the three finger salute, like to show the power of people. And also the most important thing part is the what we call they know how to react to the authoritarian regime, especially we know understands that the Thai police is trying to cracking down all the protests, and what they do is they will just ask the people to gather at the MRT station. Is it MRT? I'm not sure, but it's just we call it an MRT, okay? MRT station. Then if like after that, when the time reached, they will just announce the venue of the protest. This is the things that I think it moved like what happened in Hong Kong. Also, this is what I really respect, like how they respond to the authoritarian regime, the way they protest. And also the most important point is the protests mostly are initiated by the youth, okay? And we understand actually Thai people must be facing the consequences, the less magistrate law, which might be faced 15 years of jail, if not mistaken, maximum 15 years of jail if you are being convicted. And they are still there to speak up against the taboo, and also to challenge the status quo, as well as to ask for a reform in constitution, in the monarchy. So to strike forward to constitutional monarchy. And right now, I understand that they move forward more radical, as we want a more equal society, and we ask for communism. And this is the things that I pretty respect of. And I think perhaps in future, Malaysian youth can engage with Thai people, as well as Indonesia and the ASEAN region, so that we can make a coalition from the grassroots. Okay.
You can try to conclude.
Oh, okay. So fast. Okay, but I'm saying actually Malaysia also having the same problem, because like we can see every time when we have the people who speak against the government views, or we voice out something different opinion with the government, we see the crackdown also, such as like the activists were being called to the police station, and they were intimidated by the police, and they were being charged at court as well. So what I mean, there are existing draconian laws. And this is time for us, to stand solidarity together and condemn I'm here to condemn any kind of violation of human rights against the Thai protesters. So last but not least, I would say our generation will definitely gathered to eliminate all the injustice and fight against all the dictatorship. People might say this is we have experienced the third wave of democratization, but I think it's wrong, because we can see right now throughout the world, the protests or the demonstration is coming up against those the government that did not respect the will of the people. And so let us fight together. We share the struggle, we share the anxiety, we also will share the determination of Thai people to strive for a greater freedom and also democracy. Thank you. Same solidarity.
Solidarity statement of Konfederasi Pergerakan Rakyat Indonesia, Confederation of Indonesia, KPRI. Dear comrades, greeting from Indonesia, from Jakarta. Konfederasi Pergerakan Rakyat Indonesia, KPRI, representing 8th Federation of the Women, Peasant, Worker, Urban Poor, Fishermen, and Indigenous people in Indonesia, express its international solidarity with thousands of protesters who demand democratic freedom and to the authoritarian and oppressive monarchist regime in Thailand. The lasting and massive struggle of the people and working class of Thailand adopted constitutes fight against the anachronistics and anti-democratic monarchist regime, which is depriving the popular strata of the country even the most fundamental democratic rights. We condemn the repression and state violence against the protesters, and we denounce the revival of the lese majesty law. This authoritarian and anti-democratic law provides that those who will be judged guilty for defame, insult, or threaten the king, queen, her apparent or regent can face up to 15 years on each charge. Despite the recent election held in 2019, the Thai people saw the election as merely democratic sugar coating to the military dictatorship since the 2014 coup. Constitutional reform is also being demanded by the Thai people. During the rule of the military junta, reform in the Thai constitution in 2017 further entrenched the military control through the letter of the law. This had led more restriction in the democratic right of the Thai people. Multiple arrests were also made, including personalities of groups involved in the action. Following the growing protests, the government is set to intensify the repression with curfew and stricter rule on gathering reportedly in the offing. Despite the repression being employed by the Thai government, the protest continues to grow and spilling over to other key cities and region in Thailand. We further condemn the use of police violence, including the use of water cannon against peaceful protesters, which include high school and university students. KPRI support the fire demand of the people and working people in Thailand and call upon the people movement to be intensive and extend their struggle for the satisfaction of the contemporary need of the broader population. We stand in solidarity with the protest movement in Thailand and demand an immediate lifting of the state of emergency and the release of the pro-democracy movement activists and all political prisoners with respect for the right of the people to protest. KPRI also call for an end the feudal power that supported by military-dominated rule, including the lese majesty law to silent dissent. KPRI is full support for any grassroots process for democratic constitutional change that can enable democratic government in Thailand. Long life solidarity, long life struggle. We struggle together until working people win. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, comrades. On behalf of PLM, the Party of the Laboring Masses in the Philippines, we're sending our deepest solidarity to the pro-democracy movement in Thailand and its continuing protests over demand for genuine democratic reforms and an end to the military-dominated rule. We are inspired by the gigantic mobilization that the people of Thailand have undertaken since February this year. We are awed by the bravery of the youth and the masses who came out in the streets in hundreds of thousands despite the violent repression of the military regime and the pandemic of COVID-19. I remember our solidarity and networking with the Thai youth and students in the 1970s, especially during the popular uprising that led to the downfall of the ruling military dictatorship of Tanom Kitikachorn in 1973. The victory in Thailand was hailed by the anti-dictatorship movement in the Philippines, which was then reeling under the martial law regime of Marcos imposed in September 1972. And in 1976, we were shocked and angered by the violent reaction unleashed by the ruling classes in Thailand during the October 6 massacre in Thammasat University. I had the chance to visit Bangkok in 1984 and met with a network of Thai activists who survived the massacre but were continuing with their organizing among workers and farmers. We shared our experiences regarding the building and the strengthening of the underground movement as we confronted similar dictatorships during that time. Today, we salute the youth and the people of Thailand for their bravery in the mobilization without let up in the last few months. When the pandemic of COVID-19 hit us early this year, we thought we have to prepare for a new normal that means putting up with health protocols that include being in quarantine for long period, avoiding grouping of people, and imposing physical distance among ourselves. But it was broken by the eruption of the street actions, first in the US by the hundreds of thousands of Blacks and their supporters in the Black Lives Matter movement. Then recently, there was also this mass strike of women in Indonesia. And now, still continuing and developing, is the popular struggles in Thailand. Mass struggle is reclaiming its proper place in many parts of the world today. In the pro-democracy movement, it is important that you are putting both the monarchy and the rule of the generals on the spot. The monarchy in Thailand is the most dubious, irreverent, and irrelevant institution in the world today, especially now that it's headed by a new king who is known around the world as a thug, a hooligan, and a misogynist. The character of the new king is comparable to our own President Duterte, although the monarchy and the military junta in Thailand are the most autocratic and undemocratic institution that still exists today. Because of the restrictions, the slogan of the movement, "Down with Feudalism," is really a code of down with the monarchy. I have been conducting education courses online, and one episode was about the Russian Revolution in 1917, which had its 103rd anniversary this year. Your call of down with feudalism and convene a constituent assembly is reminiscent of that period. There was also a debate on whether the solution can be through a constitutional monarchy, which I understand the bourgeois and liberal forces in Thailand are bargaining for. Of course, in 1917, Lenin stood not for a constitutional monarchy, but for a republic, and the establishment of a provisional revolutionary government, which can then convene a popular constituent assembly. I also understand that the protests in Thailand are beginning to open up, not only to the youth and student forces, but to the forces of the workers, farmers, and the urban and rural poor. These are popular forces which in Lenin's 1917 would be the popular forces that can constitute the new government. However, even just for making us aware that the struggle in Thailand continues and that the protest will escalate until a favorable conclusion is reached is already a great contribution to the struggle in the region and in the world today. This means that we have the responsibility to extend more and more solidarity to the youth and people of Thailand. This solidarity can take many forms. It can be through this type of networking, sharing of experiences, an activist exchange between Southeast Asian groups and the groups in Thailand, a shared network of publications and online communications, and of course, specific actions like a demonstration in the Thai embassy in our countries and the likes. Thank you very much for everyone who facilitated this seminar and exchanges. Mabuhay ang mga kabataan at mamamayan ng Thailand. Venceremos.
Okay, the progressive movement in Malaysia has been following closely the developments in Thailand, and we've been inspired by the bravery and commitment of the protesters who have taken great personal risks to push for a better and more democratic society. I think it's very important for all of us in Southeast Asia to see that our struggles are linked. We are part of the same struggle because the ruling class, the capitalist class, practices divide and rule. When in Malaysia we try and ask for a better minimum wage, we are told that if they give us a wage which is higher, then we will lose FDI to Thailand, we'll lose FDI to Vietnam, we'll lose FDI to Indonesia. And so sorry, we can't give you much. When we ask the government, please tax the corporations more, what they tell us is, no, our corporate tax is 24%, but Thailand is only 20%, Singapore is 18%. So our struggles to build a better lives for our people actually is linked. Because if they can get away with low corporate taxes in other countries in the ASEAN region, then we can ask for higher corporate tax. So we have to work together. The only way we can improve the conditions of our people, we see our struggles as linked. Of course, we've got to struggle in our own countries, but we've got to reach out and work together for better wages, for better conditions, for higher taxes. And we also got to see that in almost all our countries in ASEAN, the left lost the last round in the 50s, 60s, 70s. The left was defeated and has been vilified by the state propaganda. And as a result of that, many people have very wrong views about the left as being authoritarian and anti-democratic and anti-religion and demonic, actually. So this is our biggest task, to tell them, hey, that's wrong. What we really stand for is for justice, is for inclusivity, is for fairness, and for more democracy. And that's, I think, our biggest task is how do we translate our principles and our values so that the ordinary people who've been taken in by the propaganda understand what we're going for. So that's, I think, our biggest task that we have to face. And I think the forces for democracy and justice in all the ASEAN countries have to reach out, form a stronger coalition, because our struggle is a common struggle. We have to work together. So to our friends in Thailand who are on the picket lines and are struggling for a better society, we salute you for your courage and wish you all the best in your struggle for a better society. Thank you.
Just a little, yes, now that Thailand, the mood of the youth movement and also people movement now still angry because our demands are not responded by the government and the parliament enough. Even the parliament now is trying to amend this constitution law, but we know that the parliament, especially the coalition of the governments and the senators, they they try to ignore our demand, especially the reform of the monarchy. Yes, and the military regime still in office, and they are still having influence in different parts of Thai society. So it's quite a big, it's huge missions for the movement. So we need to get more people to involve in the movements. Especially we need the working class, the farmers to involve the movement to fight for democracy and overthrow the military rules, military regime. So now now I think a socialist and we need to go back to bring the history of political history in Thailand back to analysis now at the present, especially the socialist thoughts. Yeah, and we need to talk about more about the capitalism, because you can see that in different countries they talk about the failure of the capitalism to deal with the pandemics, and now the people, a lot of people now are suffering from the pandemic, and many of them are jobless, and it's not there is no good side that to help this kind of people. So we need to, this is a good opportunity to use this opportunity to talk about to criticize the capitalists and talking about the socialist solution in Thailand, so that we can get more people to join the movement. Even we don't talk about the socialists directly, we can talk about the worker issues, farmer issues, and every human rights issues to know, to see the importance to restructure the political structure in Thailand. So I think that we need to change the structure, the whole structure of Thai politics, and also the economy system as well. Yes.
Hello, I would like to say hello from Germany, from the party Die Linke. And I would just add a little story from Germany regarding the protests in Thailand, because as you maybe know, the king of Thailand prefers to make his holidays in Germany and spends much time there. And this was not a problem or a political issue for a long time. But since the protests started, also our government became aware of this. And our party is in opposition position in parliament, but they brought in kind of expertise to ask if it's legal that the monarch of Thailand can rule from Germany. And they also demanded in the political process to deny the visa because of the human rights abuse and the brutal police force against demonstrators and so on. So this means that even if usually governments like Western governments like the German government usually do their business as they want. They have links to autocratic rulers as long as it's about business and geostrategic interests. They don't care about the human rights situation. And they don't look deeper in the situation in the country itself. But the protest made a change here. And now even in German public, it's debated. And so keep on with your struggles. So they are important because they are seen also everywhere in other places in the world. So we are really enthusiastic about what's going on, and wish you a good, encourage you to go on, and wish you endurance and strength to go on. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
So I just want to say that as a Thai living overseas, and we try our best to put on the spotlight to what's happening in Thailand, and we are really thankful for other friends from other countries, from Malaysia, from Australia, from all across the world that help us bring this to light, what's happening in Thailand and what we are suffering. And last one is that I'm 100% supporting the socialism, but I think there's a long way, it's a long journey in order to explain this concept to Thai people, because we've been brainwashed for too long that socialism and communism is the same. That's the idea, that they couldn't understand that. The majority of the Thai couldn't understand that it's different in the core of socialism and communism. So it's going to be a long way, and I hope that the protesters in Thailand will stay on the peace, remain seek the peace in terms of fighting, and I hope that we achieve our goal soon. Thank you.
Okay, so well, thank you so much. This talk is very inspiring. I love like seeing like also not just my country's struggle, but also like this is an international struggle, as capitalism is also like a totalizing system, right? Capitalism rules the world. So if you want to fight with capitalism, of course, we need the world to fight. We need like more than one country. I think this is like, this is very touching, because it's like a very, special solidarity for me. And yes, someone call me. Anyway, so yes, again, thank you so much for all comrades. I would like to special thanks to the Indonesians too, because you guys are very inspiring to us indeed. I've heard that you guys are fighting against neoliberal government, and it's very inspiring because you guys are very radical. And we're trying to, the fight in Thailand, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to escalate our movement to be more radical, more towards socialism, or more towards fighting against capitalism too, because socialism is the way to democracy. We cannot have democracy under capitalism. We need equality, and so that we can have like true democracy, because democracy also means equal. So thank you so much for inspiring us here so much, and see you guys in solidarity with all of you.
Hi. I think before we end, I'd like to also share the message from the friends from Europe part as well. I think that many of European networks, especially those that we know, friends from the Green Code campaign networks, also has been in solid solidarity with us, and I think others as well from here. And situations in Thailand right now has been considered not just for the future of freedom, democracies, and the strengthening of the human rights principles for Thailand, but for throughout the whole ASEAN. And so I like to say that solidarity this time, not just for Thailand, but how we combine the strength and build solidarities that moving toward the recognitions of the people participation right in every dimensions, in the ASEAN. And that's what, and just a brief about what happened in Germany. Yeah, the calls for the German government to make positions on the king is not what we really wish for. I mean, the sanctions of the Thai king is very mild. What we are doing now is really try to have a platform, I mean, the legal platform that we can persecute the king. as a human rights violators, has been part of many of the crimes against the Thai people. So we are working, and we try to work from here, not to get the kings, block the king from coming to Germany, but looking at possibilities to prosecute or to bring the king to the court, in any court in Europe, in Germany, or in Europe, or in international human rights court, as a perpetrators for human rights violations. So I'd like to let you, and I think this is really difficult fight. It's easier to block him from entering Germany than it's easier to lobby the government or the European government, German government, to support our or open a channel for prosecutions of the king. And so we need your solidarity for that. And I think what we are doing here is also hoping that we can pave the way for the democratic movement in Thailand, and to assist the democratic movement in Thailand as well. So solidarity to all, and solidarity for Thai people, and thank you for all of your solidarity to us.
Thank you very much for all the people joining us today, take part in the online solidarity event. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the interpreters and also all the speakers. Thank you very much. So before we end this session, maybe we're going to take another last round of the photo session with the slogan and everything. Let's keep the spirit and let fight together to better world. Thank you, everyone. So we see you all in the struggle. Maybe you all can show some symbols. Yeah. Three.
Solidarity ยายิ่ง
สู้
Continue chanting a bit because I need to take all the pictures. Continue.
We said คนไทยสู้คนไทยสู้คนไทยสู้คนไทยสู้
คนไทยสู้
คนไทยสู้
No, we unmute them.
ค่ะ
คนไทยสู้
คนไทยสู้
I see many people didn't on your video, so I only can see your name. If possible, please on your video, so you all can see your face. Everybody can show your solidarity through your face, even you are apart and far away from each other.
We should say the word "สู้" in your language. "สู้" is fight. Like we can have the word "สู้" that introduced from different language from Asia to the Thai people.
Okay.
Laban.
Yes.
Laban.
Long
live people's struggle.
Yes.
Long live revolution.
Yes, ศักดินาจงพินาศประชาราษฎร์จงเจริญ That is been down to the feudalism and salute to the Thai, to the solidarity. Long live the people. Yeah. Victory to the Thai people and victory to the ASEAN people as well. So we have to have the ASEAN belong to the ASEAN people, not to the dictators.
Right.
So everyone.
Yes.
Okay, correct.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. In solidarity.
Yeah.